Porn ruined my marriage. There were so many things that my marriage could have been that I let it not be, and I stopped because of my dependency on porn. And this is the hardest thing for me to talk about because it's the most raw, and it's the most real, and it's the most shameful thing actually in my life. And it started after a year into our marriage. I started our relationship so high-hoped, bright-eyed, ready to take on the world, ready to be the best husband this world has ever seen. High-achieving, man of faith, man of standard, that's who I was. And then early on into our marriage, earliest stages of our marriage, after the infatuation kind of faded and life started hitting us and stresses of life, we were living in a tiny apartment in Tokyo, Japan, just me and my wife. Most stressful time of our lives, hands down. And it was hard because we were so hopeful in our relationship. And we had so many dreams and ambitions of being this ideal couple, this perfect couple, and having a family. And the stresses of life, finances, paying an expensive rent for our apartment in expensive downtown Tokyo, I let the stress really get to me. It wasn't long before I didn't have anyone to go to. My wife was stressed. I was stressed. We weren't supporting each other emotionally. And the closest friend I could grab onto was porn. Going back to my old habit, even though I had been clean for 4 years at the time, 3-4 years at the time, I went back to the old habit. And the first way that porn ruined my relationship is I could have just gotten up and said, okay, that was a mistake. Let's not do that again. But instead, I let the shadows consume me. I let the secrecy consume me. I let the shame of I'm not good enough. I can't beat this. And I let one incident lead to another, lead to another, lead to another, before I was desensitized to the feelings of guilt and shame anymore. I didn't even care. I didn't even care to not let my wife in on it. I didn't even care about how she felt. I didn't care about that. And then after the secrecy and the shame consumed me and I stopped feeling guilt, I stopped being sensitized to those feelings, that's when the irritation came in. I started being angry because I knew that deep in my heart I didn't want this anymore. Deep in my heart I was feeling like I was lying to her. And so I became irritated because I was trying to justify the habit, but I knew I couldn't. And when I wouldn't get my fix, when I wouldn't be able to go to porn, when I was stressed or when we were fighting, I would feel irritated and let it out on her and the people around me, the people closest to me. I would be angry and irritated all the time. And then what came after that was a disinterest in my wife, physically, emotionally, sexually. Became uninterested in her because porn was, at the time, more interesting than an actual, real relationship. And I was just not interested. And so the result was that my wife went through a kind of a depressive state after our second child was born. Postpartum depression. She wasn't interested in sex, which is pretty common right after people have kids. And instead of supporting her and trying to make her interested or persuade her or romance her, is a better word, to be interested in sex, instead I went, okay, fine. At least I have porn. At least I have masturbation to soothe me, to soothe my sexual desires, right? And so I went to porn. And so the result was that we were not intimate for about years, actually. About 4 years. There was about a 4-year period after our child was born that we weren't intimate at all. It's a long time. And we didn't want to have kids. We didn't want to have sex. I wasn't that interested in it because I was getting my fix elsewhere. And so there was this period of time that, and we were like, okay, maybe we should have another kid. I wanted to have another kid. She didn't really want to have a kid. She was not interested. And instead of standing up for what I believed or trying to even try, didn't even try. I was like, okay, fine. And then I went back to porn, masturbation. Fine. At least I have my old friend. And then that went on for years and years. And what could have been is that we didn't have an intimate relationship, a romantic relationship. We didn't give an opportunity for God to give us children. There could have been children in that period of time that were not had because of my self-centeredness. And of course, the whole time I was blaming her. I was like, oh, you just don't want to be intimate. It's your fault. This is what was going through my head, honestly. It's because you're not being sexual. It's because you're not being interested. And we didn't have kids for years. And what I told everyone and what I told myself is, oh, we just don't want to have any more kids. That's it. We're just not interested. But the truth is, we weren't having sex because I wasn't interested. I lacked interest because I was more interested in porn. I literally had nothing to give her. I literally, at the end of the day, spent the day masturbating myself to death. And I had nothing to give. I had nothing in my body, my soul, my heart to give to my wife at the end of the day. Nothing left. It was all for myself. Every last ounce of it was for me. And then there's a certain point where you do it enough, you masturbate enough times in a day, and you're just like, what am I doing? Like, you just hit rock bottom. And I was just in a state of depression. I was like, I can't believe I'm still here. What am I doing? I've got children. I've got a wife that has been patient and loving with me. What am I doing? And so I remember the moment that I stopped watching porn. The exact reason I stopped that went through my head was I said to myself, I cannot love my wife 100% as long as this is in my life at all. I can't love my wife 100% if I'm reserving something for myself. It's impossible. And I will justify it to hell, to kingdom come, like everyone else does. Oh, it's okay in moderation. It's once a month is fine. And that's all the bullshit I was telling myself. Until I was just like, I realized I actually can't love her because I physically have nothing to give her. I physically have absolutely nothing in my body, soul, heart, and mind that I can give to my wife. And I hated that. I hated being that man. That was the only reason I needed. And I looked back at myself and I saw the monster I had become. I saw the irritation. I saw the anger consuming me. When I didn't get what I wanted, I was angry, irritated, disrespectful. And I hated becoming that man. And that's the single moment where I said, this is enough. And it was really that simple. And so what could have been was children, more children. What could have been more love in our relationship, more intimacy, more romantic moments, more time together. Not even the sexual stuff, just the intimacy, the internal, spiritual, and physical intimacy of just being with a woman. It could have been. So after I quit, the end of the story is we have a new baby girl that is just 1 year old right now. We have a baby girl in our house that was born many years, 6 years or so after our other daughter. And I say that it's, we just took a break from having kids, but actually it was because I was reserving my sexual drive for myself, for porn. That's the truth. And there's a lot more that could have been. But I'm not going to sit in my self-pity. We've been blessed with a daughter, a little baby, and we have more to come. We have more babies to come. We have more relationships to come. And our sex life is something that I couldn't have ever imagined before in my entire life. And that's not a boast, that's not a brag, doesn't matter, but an illustration of how there is no affliction that cannot be redeemed. There is no offense you can make. There is no lifestyle that you let consume your life that cannot be redeemed. Nothing. No matter how dire your situation, how dire your life, no matter what shadows and secrecy you have let consume your life, no matter how many times you have doused yourself in gasoline and lit the fire, there's redemption for every affliction. Doesn't matter. I've seen it all. Of all the hundreds of men that I talk with almost every day about their porn addiction, I have never, ever met a man that cannot be redeemed. I've never met a man that cannot bounce back. I've never met a man that is not worthy of doing all the things that he was born to do and has been bestowed the potential that you've been given. And it's a complete lie that we tell ourselves that we can't, unworthy. I've seen it all. I've experienced it myself. I've experienced it. And it really started with seeing how this has affected my life, my marriage, my relationship, my future. And I just hated that. I hated being that, and I decided to stop. And it was that simple. And once I told my wife, I never felt so much acceptance in my entire life. Never. And that will always be the moment that I go back to in my life and I think about in absolute inspiration and confidence to know that I'm without a doubt worthy and loved no matter what I do. And it's moments like that, it's conversations like that that change your life forever. It's only one conversation. You're only one conversation away from eliminating this habit, from changing your life, and being the man that you always thought you could never be because you were so lost in a jungle. But as soon as you find yourself outside the jungle that you've been lost in for years, as soon as you see the light outside of the jungle walls, you will go, wow, all I had to do was take one step into the light. And I found myself in this beautiful field outside of a jungle I've been lost in for decades. And as soon as you take that step, you will look back at the jungle and you will say, there are billions of other men that are also lost in that jungle. And I know how to get out. And I'm going to help them get out. And that's why I make these videos for you guys, because I know that this video will help one marriage, will save one marriage. I know that. And I know with confidence that it's going to save a future marriage. Lots of love to you guys. I'll see you in the next video.